So we're back today with another Trilogy Quality Culture, and we're going to talk about results with Ryan Malone and Carrie Maune. Carrie, as you know, during harvest, anybody that's testing mycotoxins will be generating a lot of results. If you have a result that comes into question, what are some things that you would look at to support that result?
Jordan, that's a great question because anyone that does mycotoxin testing, or any testing for that matter, always needs to be concerned about what would happen if one of the results that has been generated from their facility comes into question. So pre-planning can make that process so much easier when you support that result. So the first thing you'd want to do is make sure that the method you're using, that you've selected for either that crop year or those particular matrices, is validated on that specific matrix. A method that might be very applicable for corn or wheat or even some simple commodities may not work for something like distiller's grains or some of the corn processed product like corn gluten meal. So that's the first thing you want to do, is make sure you're using the right method for the particular matrix. After that, you want to make sure that you've got good documentation for the staff that's running it. And it's always important to have some type of qualitative and quantitative result saying, this person has been trained. Use an unknown, use something that's gone through the lab before, and prove that they can get that result. And then also have that qualitative, having somebody watch them that knows how the results are supposed to be generated and how that method's supposed to be run. So those are two things that are really important. The third thing, and we've talked about this before, make sure everybody knows the sampling plan. And it's published. We've got some videos that you can go back and look at. But sampling a bin is a lot different than sampling a truck. So you want to sample well, and you want to grind and subsample analytically. After that, it's always good to run a daily QC. And we've talked about those before. Ryan, right. Jump in and talk about those.
Yeah, for sure.
QCs.
So, as Carrie said, when you have these systems implemented, you have a very high level of confidence. So that if a result is questioned, you can go back to these daily QCs and know on that day, with that run, a QC material or a matrix-based reference material was run with it. And so if that's within 2 standard deviations of the assigned value, you can have 95% level of confidence that those results are of the highest level of quality you can have. Because when you're looking at a matrix-based material, it's actually almost an outside control, because you're taking that sample through the entire process. So you're extracting it, you're purifying it, you're putting it on the system, you're calculating the result with your calibration curve. So if you're within those 2 standard deviations, you can have the highest level of confidence. So that's really good. Whenever a result's questioned, say, okay, well, first thing I'm going to do is look at that QC chart to make sure that's within that range that I have. So.
Another thing that is important, and Jordan, you know this from being in the lab, is those retained samples. Right. So maybe you can talk about that.
So when you have a retained sample, you really want to keep a portion of that sample back in a storage facility for, say, 30 or 60 days, because as you might question one of those results, it may be beneficial to run that sample again. Let's say you had a quality control material that was out that day, and you need to extract that sample again to try to prove that result. And so keeping a retained sample in storage will really help provide the best result for that sample.
That's exactly what we do here at the lab. And finally, something that we do at our lab is we have some trusted outside facilities that if we have a sample that we've retained, and maybe there's questions from a couple different labs, that we can send that out to someone that we know and we trust. And maybe we've sent them some unknown samples that we trust their data on. So that's another thing. As you look at defending your data or supporting your data, that's a really important piece.
And if anybody has any questions out there, we can certainly consult or just give any type of advice on how somebody would sample or run a quality control material, just to make sure that whatever result they have is the most accurate.
Sure.
Absolutely. The results are, the accuracy of the results and your confidence in your results makes your whole program.